all started. And then I met the two child psychologists out of the States, and they had done some audios, be a bird, be a ball, be a horse, be a cat. We've since added be a puppy. And those help kids and adults and anybody that listens practice calmness skills. And to me, being calm is a big deal, because our whole world of advertising and marketing to engage you is to get you to go to your fight and flight, or what I call safety and entertainment response.
Right, we are live now.
Very nice.
Yeah, very nice. It's so good to have you back with us, Michael.
Well, it's great to be here. I so like the vase, by the way, Julia.
Sorry.
And whether it's a virtual background or a real background, that vase is gorgeous.
The vase at the back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a Chinese vase.
I thought so, but it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
But I also
love
see
it too.
Apple product in the background too, so it means computer-wise we get along.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to share this out now.
I went from.
Oops, where is it?
So we can
What's
choose
that?
page. We can choose page, and I have also.
Oh, I know.
shared
I was
my-
like writing it halfway, and then it suddenly just disappeared.
Yeah, so I'm at. It's already shared on my timeline.
Good. Can you put it on my timeline, pretty please?
Can I do it? Do that?
I think
I
you
believe
can.
you can.
You can just
Yeah,
tag
okay, I'm
him
gonna
and
do
then
that,
it will
okay?
go there.
Sure.
I'm gonna do that. Well, friends timeline, Michael.
Because then I can put it in my group. I can put it on my page.
Yeah. Oops.
There we are.
So probably you could share. I can't seem to post it on your timeline though.
Oh, it's there.
Is there?
Yep.
Okay.
So thank you. So it's on my Resiliency for Life page.
Good evening, everyone who is listening in.
Hold on. I'll just share on one more page. You guys can start.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you
I've
know,
got it.
after last week's session with you, although we concluded about 1 hour plus later, and I just felt that there's so much more to ask you.
Thank
And
you.
so I had to ask you and re-invite you to be with us again for this episode 21st. We
Well,
have done 21 episodes already. Wow.
congratulations.
Tenacity and resiliency.
They're sort of all intertwined, aren't they?
Yeah, because I wasn't really sure at first, like, because me and Julia, we have been talking about it since last year, and because of other projects that I had in hand, and so I couldn't start last year, and this year I said, okay, let's do it. So like episode after episode, you know, sometimes I wonder who shall I invite for the next episode, and people have been asking us what our platform is all about. And so, you know, the name that we choose is a unique one. We can choose because it is quite neutral. It means a lot of things in life is about chewing life, right? Like, let's say if I ask you, Michael, how do you chew life? How do you chew your life? Or how your life has been chewed?
I like it. Well, it's playful, but it's also thought-provoking depending on how you say it and how you interact with it and say it. So
Yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
It's memorable too. So actually, just now when I came in, I heard you talking about calm and resiliency for the family and why is it important. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh, absolutely. So I got interested in this, as I told you last week, at 7 years old, 6 years old with a concussion, and somebody else with identical issues had a radically different response. So I got interested in families because I had some grandparents come to me and say, now, Michael, you do work for us as grandparents, and that's really good. But some of us are parenting grandkids because mom and dad are no longer available, which was code for, because there were sometimes the kids were right there, code for mom or dad had died, mom or dad had had addiction issues and unfortunately broken the law and gone to prison. So they were like, you need to give us things, because some of us are grandparenting at 80 years old with 2 and 3 year olds. And I'm like, wow, it's a lot of work to parent when you're 25 and vigorous, never mind 82. So one of the 85-year-old grandmas one day said to me, she put her finger out and said, now, young man, we like you here. We love you. You come and help us a lot, but it's time. And she pointed at a little kid running around, for you to help me help parent her. She's 2. I'm not going to see her be 25. You need to give me some parenting skills to help her get past the first 18 years, because I might not make it to her being 10. I'm 85. You don't have to be a genius to see that I got health issues. She was morbidly obese. She was probably 200 pounds overweight.
Wow.
So her words too. I mean, she was so honest. So that made me think that, geez, I had 2 little ones of my own, 2 and 4. What could I do to help 3-year-olds for the rest of their life? What could I do to help a 14-year-old who's got abandonment issues because mom died in a car accident and dad got hooked on drugs and now he's in prison? What's important? So I was like, that wise person that said, start with the end in mind. And what is the end in mind? And well, from my sales background for productivity, I knew that calmness and focus were 2 key skills. Oh, yeah, that really helped me in college achieve a good grade. I worked 32 hours a week, 16 hours of school classes, 16 hours of homework. I was a little busy, but I still got a 75, which was my goal. I was not aiming for a high academic goal. I just wanted 75 and get a job 1 semester before I graduated. And I achieved that. So that worked for me. Some of my friends wanted to get a 90. Took them 6 months after graduation to get a job. We both made about the same amount of money. That extra 15%, 20% didn't make a big difference, at least in the corporate pieces of the world that I was in. Anyways, so I started using or looking into the research of my beach ball model, which if you can't see it, it says loud in red, slow in green, quiet in blue, and yellow is fast. And so I color coded it. And then there's numbers. If this was big, you see the bottom is 1, 3, 5. I think that's 8 and 10, but I can't see it. It's so small. Yeah. I'm so used to reading off my own model, I haven't memorized. Anyways, the goal is to help children as young as 3 learn some skills and language that's safe. Because when we talk feelings, depending on the individual, the family, the culture, the community, feelings can have a lot of positives, but they can have a lot of negatives attached to them. So I wanted to use words that can express feelings and states of being, but don't have as many negatives, because I'm trying to have a non-judgmental model so a 3-year-old can express themselves freely without fear of reprisals from anybody. So that lady with the finger that said, help me help her. And so that got me started. And my first Imagine Yourself model for kids and families and resiliency was rather primitive. I got a $2 CD that was being cleared out because the internet was changing and now you could buy things online. So my model was clip art. It was very gender biased. I know that now, but back then it was like, how do I do this? So boys were loud and girls were quiet. Boys were fast and girls were slow. I admit that I was wrong. But it was, you start where you start. So the grandmothers quickly fixed me on that, informed me I was wrong. And I sort of knew that, but hey, I got the model started. And from there, we've gone to no pictures of people because I want it to be as neutral as possible, because I've started to work with all ages with this model. So that got me started. And we've had a lot of fun with it. And I got to work with World War II concentration camp survivors. I got to work with the grandparents group 3 or 4 more times. I still get the odd call. I work with a foster parent who was an emergency foster parent. A little boy at 3 o'clock came with police guards because he'd been so savagely attacked by a group of adults. And so we help children, youth, families, parents, professionals help people identify what's your energy. So before we came live, I had teased Julia that when I was 5, I was a good kid, but I was sort of stuck on loud and fast a lot because I'm easily excitable because I love life. So Connie comes on the screen before we come on the screen this morning and get started. It's like, oh, what a great colored sweater. Oh, is it a sweater or is it something else? And what type of texture is it? I wonder what sort of fabric, what sort of weave. And my brain just works that way because I'm really curious. The shirt I wore yesterday is made from recycled fabrics. They don't know what it is. It's just recycled fabrics from all over the world. It's got rubberized buttons, so they never pop open. That's one of the features. Not that it matters to me. Anybody sees this poor old belly of mine, I hope their eyesight isn't damaged, but it's just fun. Anyways, we got started with this model, and the goal is for parents and kids and teenagers and teachers, professionals, because I work with sales professionals, I work with nurses, doctors, is where is your energy right now? No judgment, don't judge yourself. Where's your energy right now? Oh, so taking on the role of observer, like when we're practicing our mindfulness, we're looking down at us saying, where's your energy? Well, I'm always attempting to have my energy a little lower than I naturally would have it, because when my energy is more of a 3 or 4 out of a 10, I have more people willing to listen to me and talk to me. But when my energy gets a little too high, I'm pushing some people away and making them go, oh my gosh, what is he on? Well, I once bought some exotic coffee. It was delicious, some of the best I've ever tasted. But I found out after my 3rd cup of the day, it was very high in caffeine. Possibly not. You could literally, with my t-shirt on, see my chest beating. It was that high. So I practiced my breathing. I drank some extra water to help flush my system. And I had chest pains for 2 days. I couldn't drink it. I took 1 cup the next day, same response. So I'm not going to mention the brand. That's not fair to them because nobody else had that response. I miss it because I love good quality coffee. If anybody follows me on social media, I joke about coffee. I don't drink but 3 6-ounce cups a day now, modest amounts by my former standards, where I drank 3 16-ounce cups a day.
Wow. That's
3 small buckets. What's wrong with that? I have low blood pressure. It gets the blood pressure up to the point where I feel like I'm in a zone. But I've learned that I can drink 3 small cups and still be in a zone. Anyways, by knowing what we are and where we're at without judgment, it can then help us be more appropriate to the situation. So my 5-year-old friend from years ago that was a client, he's now in his late teens, he says to me, I'm having problems at school and the teacher says I'm not appropriate for the situations. This poor little man had seen some violence where somebody tried to kill his mother. So he's allowed to be anxious. He's allowed to be scared. He's allowed to yell out. He's been traumatized. So I said, wow, that's big stuff. So I use the term big stuff. I don't mention in dealing with anybody anymore, except through these educational events, any other types of things. I don't mention violence and name it. I don't mention victories and name it. I once worked with a group where 87% of their staff got fired and walked off the property for illegal and immoral acts. But it turns out that it wasn't them as much as the people they reported to who did everything in the negative. So they would tell you, Julia and Connie, how you were messing up every day and get out there. There's 6,000 jobs or 3,000 jobs or 97 jobs if you don't get this client's nailed to get this account happening. They always used fear for every statement. So these people they promoted to these high levels of competence, they got a better car, nicer expense account, significant raises, but they didn't give them any respectful psychosocial supports that were positive and affirming, basically saying, we believe in you, how can we help? It was all negative and derogatory. So that made me go, what if we could train? And so we've started training children and youth and adults and seniors on the 4 states of energy. So to go back to my little buddy, when I first met him, we put the beach ball model, printed it out in the back of his bedroom door and the dining room, the kitchen refrigerator, and in the bathroom. And his mother would wake him up in the morning after everybody, she was recovered, And she'd say, no words, but just point to how you're thinking, you're feeling, and your body. And he would go, all three, thinking, feeling, body, quiet and slow. He'd go to the bathroom, wash up, come to the kitchen table because mommy was making her made breakfast. And now, because she's getting them to be mindful, right? But she doesn't want to use any words. We want to keep this as simple as possible. We want to stay engaged gently, but we need to know what's going on in here. Because he was acting out to the point they were scared he was going to get violent. And he would just point at the body was quiet and slow. But as he woke up and realized that the person that almost killed his mother was banned from the household and banned from the area, he'd point that his thinking and feeling was now loud and fast, loud and fast. And I remember his mother saying, I thought he was going to dent the refrigerator sometimes. He was so, to use polite words, frustrated. But he'd been betrayed by a loving adult. Because what loving adult tries to kill the other loving adult of their own child? Oh, a guy that got caught having multiple affairs. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, okay. Stupid man thing. Anyways, so that helped him express himself. And so when I met him, I made a point of, in his case, telling him how wonderful he had the gift and the skill of loud and fast. Can you imagine? Because I'm affirming, right? You got to affirm. You got to give people positive anchors about when they're in these states, that how they can be used properly. Imagine a firefighting professional or a police professional knocking on your door if they see smoke or flames, whispering, going, I see smoke or flames. Are you safe in there? Said they'd be awful at their job. They have to be loud and fast. Oh my gosh. Without loud and fast, we'd all be in more danger more often. I said, your mother drives to work, right? Could you imagine that radio announcer that she likes to listen to that plays beautiful music in the mornings that she drives on the way to school? Imagine if they were, hi, sleepy heads. Here's something to be really relaxed as you drive. Your poor mother be driving along going, that's not waking me up. So we're affirming that in his case, loud and fast are both appropriate mindsets, skill sets, and body states of being, but maybe not all the time. And so then we taught him some skills for quiet and slow. I said, so I'm told that sometimes at school, you and I have something in common. In the playground, you and I are really loud and fast. And I said, I love it. Because boy, when I was your age, I was one of the 5 best out of a school of 400 kids, 5 best of hide and seek. And I sometimes won because when we're racing, after somebody found me and I wanted to get there first, I could make the other person laugh. So I won the race because they laughed, so they couldn't keep running as hard. So I'm aligning myself with him, but I'm also giving him something to think about to add to his skill set. Can you be respectful and make somebody laugh so you win a race? So we practice quiet and slow. Now you could call it meditative walking, but I'm trying to use language that fits in every race, culture, creed, and is simple and non-threatening. So I teach turtle walking. So I pace off 20 feet. I put a book on the floor. The last one to walk slowly from here to there wins this slow race. And he's 5 at the time, and he's so enthusiastic, and he's got a new buddy teaching him things. So on your mark, get set, go slow. Well, soon. He turns around, and what's that old man doing? Heel toe walking. Well, that's part of the turtle walking. You go very slow, heel toe. And you crouch down as low as you can, and you go so slow you almost fall over. And I said, if this was a fast race, you are phenomenal. But this is a slow race, and you have to be the last one there. So high fives on being a fast racer, but now it's time to learn slow racing. So again, I'm practicing mind-body awareness and mind-body slow skills because I want to build those neural pathways that slow and quiet is something I am capable of. And as I remember, just to let your people know that I get an attachment to the people I work with, I have a little bit of an ocular migraine happening right now. No pain, but I have like zigzag lightning bolts in my eyes. So you're all a little fuzzy, because to have this young man who'd been to hell and back, to be polite, start to respond is so exciting. We can help these kids in so many ways by giving them safe frames of reference and safe, easy to use skills. So the second time we did slow race, I made sure that he won. I went a little too fast. He won by half the distance. So we did 4 or 5 of them. I made sure I won a couple of them, but he won most of them. and big grin on his face. Mommy, you should try slow racing. I don't usually make house calls, but the mother had spent copious amounts of money with pediatric experts and nothing had changed. So she found about me. And I always tell people, I'm not a subject matter expert with licenses, degrees. I'm a tour guide. I'm going to teach you some states of being. I'm going to offer some skills, give you a model, and you have to practice with your child and without your child. If you don't practice, it tells them that it's not that important. You have to commit. And so I will tell your viewers that I've had a couple of, it's interesting that it's mothers, and they said they fell asleep with their child after practicing some of these skills and then listening to one of our audio programs. And in one case, they woke up 5 hours later. Do you think mommy was tired? And the 5-year-old was downstairs making grilled cheese. Because mommy, I'm really hungry. Look at the time. So I will warn your listeners and viewers that these skills are very powerful. They work really well. So my young man gets to grade 3. He's had 5 sessions with me. School says he's changed so much they can't believe it. And the mom calls me at the end of grade 3 that the teacher asked for a special meeting and asked her to bring her son to congratulate him not only on a good year with good grades, but exceptional behavior. Because I believe in every child here has potential that's beyond my comprehension. What a teacher. And I believe that every child has something to teach me. And your sons taught me, because on the first week, I told the kids that on Thursdays, every week, we'd have a little pop quiz. It doesn't count for your grades. It just shows me, am I being a good teacher? And are you learning what I'm teaching? Again, what a teacher. He didn't say, are you being a good teacher, student? Just, am I being a good teacher? Is it sticking? And so this young man puts his hand up and he shook it so hard, I thought his arm was going to come out of his socket. Mr. Teacher. And then he used his name. My friend Michael, I'm humbled that he remembered me from being 5, said that if you practice belly breathing, it helps your brains come out on the test. So can we do that twice before every test? And he said, well, maybe you should show us. And he said this, oh, it's so beautiful. This young man stands up and takes command of the class. My friend Michael said, if you do this, it helps your brains come out in the test. So you still have to study, but it helps your brains think better. So he taught the class, fingers together, and putting your fingers like this is to remind you that your thinking and feeling and your body are all connected together. And your thumb is supposed to gently go in your belly button, because that's where the breathing happens. And you're supposed to breathe. And then he stood up, went sideways, and showed them having his belly come down and out. Up and in, hold for 4, down and out. Teacher said he did it twice. He captivated the room. His commanding presence of his friend's Michael belly breathing. He said, and my friend Michael said, it helps you play computer games, but my mom doesn't like that part. So I did that. I helped the 97-year-old who was going blind and deaf and having panic attacks when she got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom because she became legally blind, so she couldn't see even with a nightlight. So I don't blame her for panicking. You get to be 97 and she got a super great computer brain with a master's degree. You want to see where you're going. So I taught her some skills. One of them is called square breathing. You count to 4 and you come down like drawing a square. You hold for 4 across the square. Imagine 1 second for each one. And you exhale for 4 coming up the side like imagining a square. And you breathe out on the 4 and you breathe in on 4. And then you've made a complete square. And then you come down, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4, up for 4, and continue till you relax. And so after 3 sessions, I go to see her one day because she was a friend as well. And she said, there's this dignified lady, remember, I'd never heard her swear in my life. This shit works. I was like, really? That's good to know. I said, you have every right to be anxious, angry, and frustrated, but being anxious and having a panic attack throws off your whole sleep, which means it throws off your next day. And we knew categorically that when she was calm, what little sight she had worked well because she had like pie shape here that was still working. And so I'd come in and she'd go, oh, blue shirt, nice, Michael. And she had amazing vision when she was extra relaxed. She didn't even have to do this. She just sort of turned on, Michael, is that a haircut? It's like, wow. So I saw my mission is to help her be as calm and centered as possible. So I have a neighbor who fell down recently. She passed out. And when I went out as the ambulance was coming, I was there to hold her hand. And she was trembling because you pass out, it's not fun. And I said, we need to practice some square breathing right now. What's that? I said, it'll help you with your trembles. So that when the ambulance comes, you can talk to them without having, she was having a panic attack, rightfully slow. And square breathing, down for 4, across for 4, and up for 4, holding in seconds. We didn't even finish the square. And the foot tremble and the belly tremble and the hand tremble, stop, went away. And she's since had some other health issues. And she's like, that's square breathing. Now, why don't they teach that to everybody? I said, I don't know, but it works. So anyway, so that's why I started it, was because when I was a cancer patient and chronic illness, I'd say to the experts, what do you have to help me cope to manage my inner world, my thoughts, my feelings, my body? Because I'm really stressed. At one point, I don't have just cancer, but I got cancer and it's in 4 locations. Like, this is scary stuff. And so I didn't see it out there anywhere. I saw nothing that was age appropriate. There's lots of great programs, but it's just for trendy youth, or it's just for seniors. Or no, we live in a world of intergenerational households. And why shouldn't a 29-year-old smart, wise teacher be able to teach a 4-year-old? Why shouldn't a 97-year-old grandma who's having a bad day have a great grandchild of 4 come and hold grandma's hand because she sees a tremble and say, Grandma or great grandma, are you having a loud and fast time inside? It works. Those great grandmas I worked with back with the grandparents group, oh, I love every last one of them. They're all superheroes, because they could have said, I'm too old to parent a 2-year-old at 85. I'm too old to have a 16-year-old. But the kid would have had a life of foster care. So those women are all superheroes to me, because they did it on pennies and nickels and dimes. So the least I could do was, in the beginning, I developed it for them. And then my kids used it. And I have to say, I'm very pleased that when my youngest, who's 38 now, when she was 7, she had a brain tumor right here, size of a male thumb down to the 3rd joint. And it was pushing on her reading center. And she was starting to have major seizures. She was having grand mal seizures, which is really scary to witness. And as your baby of 7, this cute little bright lights like on the floor, and you're like, what is going on here? Luckily, the medical people caught it quick, but it was so severe. The local hospital couldn't treat it. The regional hospital, oh, we do one of these a year. Oh, okay, so we have somebody that knows what they're doing. That's nice. Off to Toronto, luckily, and there was a surgeon who goes, oh, I do 2 of these a day, 4 days a week. These surgeries in girls, for some reason, seem to be prominent. And they started happening in research in the 30s. Anyways, we taught her the skills, and she was so calm, the hospital accused us of doing things to her. They couldn't understand how a kid that's that sick could be so calm. So we had the Department of Psychology, the senior social worker coming into my daughter's bedroom after her treatments where she fell asleep, and she asked permission to fall asleep. She practiced some of the skills. What have you done to her? I said, we didn't do anything to her. We did things with her. And why is your model of care reactionary? Your model of care is like the teenager drives the car, crashes into a tree, almost dies, gets traumatized. Then you patch them up physically, and then you give them mental health care to deal with the trauma. Why not give them the care in advance so they know what they're experiencing, so they have some skills and tools to engage with you, engage with themselves, and go, oh, now you can't probably see it, but I have a little red dot. For when I was teaching my daughter years ago, I was stressed. My baby's got a tumor. She's going to have a long surgery. It's so delicate. There'll be 2 neurosurgeons and 2 people on the anesthetist because she's so young and fragile. Whoa, this is serious. Well, I was so wound up that when I said, and if you forget to use it, it's okay. Well, I hit my forehead so hard, I burst a little blood vessel there, which when I look in the mirror every day, reminds me to just chillax a little more, which is chilling and relaxing put together. Because I constantly have to chillax because I'm born intense.
And that's a word I use for my daughter as well. Chillax.
Yes. So
is it invented term that it's very useful?
Well, yes. Well, I have a couple of very smart, I have several very smart nieces, but one of them loves her words. So she introduced me to ginormous. Another one introduced me to for crying in the sink. because she heard somebody in the family say something that was profane when they're outside during an ice storm trying to stop the house from having a piece of the house fall off. So I love the words that kids invent. Another smart niece never gets frustrated, although she's 25 and working on her master's now. She used to it too, get fustinated. It's like that other word, Uncle Mike, but I can't say it.
Michael,
Yeah, go on.
sorry. If anybody who wants to get professional help from you, right? And what are the keywords they like, you know, the 7-year-old kid that you first would you say you mentor him?
I professionally engaged with him and connected. He called me a friend, which was an honor. I always work with kids with parents there. Or having worked with foster parents, because I'm not licensed and don't have a degree for good reasons, they will not allow me to work directly with foster kids, and that's okay. But I work with foster parents and I say, here's the PDF files, talk to the child's experts, you know, their psychologist, social worker, doctor. Here's what we're teaching. There's no mumbo jumbo science. I have nothing to sell other than these skills and the model. And the model is designed to engage the child. So the 3-year-old that had been traumatized, the foster mother said, I weigh 250. I would take 3 slugs from my husband in an emergency, then 1 slug from this kid. He's so agitated that I think that mighty little fist would go right through me. I've never seen that intensity in anger. So he used our programs 6 hours a day. At that point, we only had 2 hours of audio programs, but she just played them repeat, and that calmed them down. And he got adopted 3 years later with no signs of abuse ever. And I kept saying, that's nice, but in his files, it should say somewhere that at some point this could bubble to the surface, because we know that as we get safe and we feel good, that our subconscious starts to tell us, hey, you have this issue that's unresolved. And it's not a character flaw. It's not a moral weakness. It's just unresolved. And I've had several clients where married couples, one of them woke up being attacked by the other one. And in one case, the mortgage got paid off. A month later, one spouse woke up being kicked like the other person's life depended on it. Bruised their femur, bruised the muscle. So I know that from my own practice of being a tour guide, we have to know that, yes, it's good to give children the tools to cope and thrive. But later, if something's been this big to upset them, then expect that they're going to need to talk to other people. Because yes, I consider myself an expert, but not licensed, registered, insured. And I want them to see the Julias of the world, because they need to go where they're safe. They need to go and have more direction. So I've worked with youth at risk, and I worked with a 15-year-old who'd had big issues. And after 5-6 sessions, she's like, I feel good about myself. I said, as you should. You didn't ask to be attacked at 11 years old. You did nothing wrong. You were 11, being a well-behaved child. Someone else with discipline control issues did what they did. So just recognize that I got you started, but don't give up on yourself. You might need to see somebody else that's a tour guide with another skill set, or come back to see me, or see a Julia or a Fred. I'm not gender specific when I tell people who to see, but I have said that sometimes we respond better to the same or another gender when we go to see experts. So don't feel bad that an expert you don't bond with. If they're the only one there, like in some remote communities, well, then maybe you're going to have to say, how do I work through this? But it's important.
Michael, I just want to back us up a little bit,
Sure.
because I think it's really helpful information for all of our audience out here who may have daily kinds of worries, problems, if you say like difficulties, intense inner drama that's going on, inner trauma. And,
Inner drama and trauma, absolutely.
And can you just like bring us slowly through your very simple model? Like, how do you use it? This fast and slow, loud and quiet. And I want to say how much of a genius this is, because I think to emphasize that all these are life skills that are hugely important for not only health, but also for performance in
Yes,
life. Yeah, it's like we need to be in the state of optimal flow, and calm, safety, joy is the state that you can be totally yourself. If not, then half the time you're feeling that you're hijacked by something or in a state of emergency. You cannot let your full self emerge. So it's
absolutely.
a great emphasis to have to talk about this. So let us know, walk us through slowly your model, how to use it.
So to use it, you have to recognize that we all have 4 states. We just do. And also there's no right or wrong, good or bad, because she's got that $1 million smile, I'm going to not pick on Connie, but Connie and I could both be in the same room having the same experience, and something happens positively. Connie could get really quiet and slow because she's contemplating and thinking, and wow, how many ways could I use this opportunity that was just announced to the group? Because maybe we both belong to a neighborhood association. I, on the other hand, could express my excitement by getting loud and fast, standing up, even having been in sales meetings where the more excited you were, the more management thought you were on board, which was just so foolish because it speaks to a broken or an incomplete mindset. So I could stand on my chair. I never did. I didn't believe in that line of hype. But woo, 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 getting real loud, getting really out there. And meanwhile, Connie's going, oh, please, could he be quieter? Could he be less verbal? Oh,
It happens.
So for a few seconds, nobody's right or wrong, but I'm not respecting her style. And if I'm really loud, I'm hurting myself and depleting my energy by over responding, overreacting. So accepting that we all have quiet, loud, slow, fast states of being is the beginning of the model. And whether we're working with a 3-year-old or a 97-year-old or a 14-year-old or the 15-year-old, I talk about the 5-year-old and the 14, 15-year-old a lot because they were some of my first coaching people I was a tour guide for. And they both responded so positively. I was like, oh, I'm onto something. Oh, and of course, nothing like taking on the mantle of I'm going to change mental health in the world. We have to start at 3 and 4. None of this wait till they're teenagers or, oh, they're too young and delicate. You can't do that. I got told by more than a couple of well-intentioned professionals. It's like, well, that's nice, but are you going to be around to pay for the repairs? And the longer these habits become habits, it's harder to break them because they're not healthy. So you talked about ongoing trauma every day. I was robbed at 19 by a motorcycle gang. In the 1950s through 70s in Canada, we had motorcycle gangs. We still have them. They've learned to be smarter by being more discreet. So they're still gangs. They do all the nasty things that gangs do, but they don't do it as obvious. They're not so much into petty theft. But when I was 19, they came in to steal $40 worth of gas for their motorcycles, 14 of them. And the big galoot, the big leader of the pack came over. Who's in charge? My first day as supervisor, me. But I was raised that if you're in charge, you're in charge. And I had 2 young ladies in self-serve and 2 16-year-old guys that weighed all of 110 pounds each. And there's 14 of these ruffians. And I remembered my Shaolin Kung Fu instructor saying, don't be stupid and fight. When there's more of them than there is of you and you have no chance of winning, don't be a hero. You'll be dead or you'll be broken. Diversion, Ballard, diversion. Oh, do you guys have any taillights or headlights for those bikes? They're free today. Instantly, he went from hurting me because he broke my peritoneal sac. He broke the sac that holds your organs under my ribs, and he poked in and lifted me up. I was in his complete physical control because what am I going to do? Anyways, so I helped him in the stock room, and he can't hurt me when his arms are full of headlights. He thought it was cool. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, stay away from my young ladies, stay away from my young men, stay away from because motorcycle gangs were known to treat women as trash. I mean, just without getting into detail, you can imagine. So they stole it. Well, to fast forward, I graduate from college a few years later. I'm on my 3rd promotion. Life is good. I bought my first house with my spouse. I'm in a new mall opening. A tall guy with shaggy hair and t-shirt sleeves ripped off to show off the muscles. Looks remarkably like the guy that stole off me and poked me under my ribs. I didn't remember anything until I was halfway across a big parking lot, a good half kilometer away. I sprinted out of the store, through the double doors. The old lady I bumped, I picked her up and put her back down again and just kept running. And I came conscious of what I was doing 3, 4, 7 minutes later. So I haven't had daily terrors, but I've had a big flashback that was 100% consumed me. So this model helps you because you can practice in advance. It's called pre-framing. So maybe Connie and I both share in pretend, because I don't know Connie's neighborhood, but maybe we both have that person on the end of the street that's a nasty beep, beep, and we'll just leave it at that. And maybe Connie's response is, buddy, you don't know what I could do to you with a frying pan if you keep this up. Not that you would, but I visualize things I would never do. I did get physically attacked in the workplace once, and I did fight back, and the other person was on the ground, and I showed restraint. I only hit them once. But so pre-framing is about practicing in advance. So to go through past this nasty beep beep in the mornings, I'm going to be very calm and pretend to be deaf. Unless I hear a legitimate cry for help when I go past them, I'm not even going to acknowledge they exist. Connie might say, oh, when I go past that corner, I'm going to be so happy it's going to make them crazy. I'm not going to provoke them. I'm just going to imagine I'm hearing the happy song, and I'm going to dance my way past them on the opposite side of the street. Because I know they're not going to ever touch me. They're not. They're into emotional abuse. They just like to try to control you with their words. And I'm sure you both have met that type. So pre-framing, or with the young man that in grade 3 said that his belly breathing helped his brains come on his test. One of the things we did was say, so tests are not always fun, right? No. I get all fustinated and my brain freezes up and I can't think. Me too. Let's practice going to write a test. In fact, let's practice studying. Where do you study? The mom says, right here at the dining room table. Cool. So this is the chair where the smart young man sits. So let's stand up and let's look at the chair. So let's be silly. When you sit down, maybe by sitting on your buns, that gives you extra blood for your brain, because that's where the brains are. So wiggle your buns to help the blood flow to go to your brain. Okay. And I'm leaving pause. I'm building positives that are silly but age appropriate. And so imagine that. And imagine that you've got 2 pencils for the practicing, because that way you're extra prepared. And imagine that, well, you're just really smart. I understand you have 3 grandparents that are still alive that love you, and I'd ask the mother in advance, but this grandma was famous for being able to cook. So she's really smart with food. And do you think your mom takes after her? Because I've heard that you love some of her cooking, that you like it all, but some of it's like, wow. And this grandpa was famous as a farmer for growing, and you're related to that smartness. Wow. So some would say I'm leaving mental anchors and pictures. And this grandma, I'm told she can knit hats so fast that you can hear the needles going click, 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 and that she's got the skills with hands and brain, and she turns raw materials into hats, and that you've got 3 winter hats that she's made you. One that's now too small from when you were 3 and 4, but your mother's kept it because you look so cute in it and thinks you should keep it. And one that fits, and she mailed the one that fits up with one for next winter because it's cheaper postage, because she knows that brain of yours is growing and you're getting even smarter. Anyway, so we had him identify with smartness from the generation before. He'd been traumatized by the other adult in his life, so I kept him out of the equation. And we mentioned that your mom's got her own smarts. She works in a large company in marketing and sales, and isn't she responsible for helping people be really good at presentations? Because she was a presentation coach for a company that had like 2,000 salespeople across North America. So once a year, you'd get pulled in the old days before internet was as good as it was. And she'd walk you through another way to enhance your presentation style. Maybe you were too formal. Maybe you were too informal. But regardless, I said, so your mother's really good at talking to people to get them to listen and get them to pay attention. And your pay attention skills are different than your mom's. But if you practice the quiet and slow and have your energy about a 3 out of 10, I know when you sit down, stimulate the blood flow. So you got lots for your brains. And you get into the breathing, belly breathing before you did all this, that it'll help you with your tests. And then I gave a couple of how to practice tests. So I said, when I learned music, I learned every good boy deserves fudge. And in music, there's 5 lines. And that's what those lines are. The bottom line is E, the top line is an F. And the spaces stand for face. And he's like, so I said, what can you make up about tests to help you remember things? Because you're obviously smart. We already know that. And of course, I always like to be respectful, and I'm very careful about looks with boys and girls, so I don't mention weight or hair, because hair has a lot of cultural implications. But I always say things like, you know, you're getting smarter and smarter and handsomer. So it's obvious to me this is getting smarter too all the time. You just have to let it out. So practice the skills with your mommy. You're eating her awesome food. I think it's brain food and handsome food. What do you think, Mom? So I'm being respectful, a little bit silly, but I'm leaving anchors of positivity and respect that you got smarts in your family back to Grandma and Grandpa. And I'm sure their parents and their parents and parents were smart too. So it's just finding a way to get it out. So the model is loud, fast, quiet, slow. What task do you need to be quiet and slower on? What tasks are loud and fast? So with the young gentleman, we actually practiced loud and fast, which he thought was awesome because he was naturally talented. But then I mixed it up because you have to be diverse. This thing's got to be able to shift gears. So we practice being loud and slow. We practice being quiet and loud. And you should have seen the look in his face like, wow, you can do this. I said, yes. Just remember me playing hide and seek, loud and fast. I was a pretty good runner. When I was in high school, I found out I was the 3rd fastest in 3 out of the 4 years I took phys ed class in high school. I was really something because one of those 3 was one of the top 10 fastest in my whole province. And one of those 3 was the fastest in the whole Canada for his age group for long distance. So if I compared myself only to them, I'd never be any good. But I was faster than 20 other kids every time. Oh, pretty cool. I wasn't fast enough to beat the short, fast guy, and I wasn't fast enough to beat the long, fast guy, but I was faster than 20 other kids every other time. So I was trying to get them to have perspective too, that you don't have to be number 1. In sales, this used to make my mentors and my manager crazy. You came in 4th again. Come on, don't you want to be 1? No, there's 80 of us. 4's good, or 7th is good. 12's good too. I want to be in the top 12, but I don't need to be. And for parents listening, be cautious about perfectionism. When I told people in the past that I was happy with a 75 average in college, they're like, but you could have got I got a job before everybody else in my class. I got promoted 4 times before most of the people I graduated with. I was trying to have some balance. I was working 32 hours a week. My dad had worked in aerospace. They'd been on a lot of strikes. My parents supported me with food and housing. And I took it upon myself to make sure I had no bills. And I paid room and board because I wanted to be a supportive son. And I had that skill set. I could have aimed for 90. I probably would have got 90 if I'd only studied. It's not, and I know to some people in some cultures, this makes them crazy. 90 is not that important to me when it comes to grades. It's outcome. I took what I learned. I knew where the books were. I knew how to ask questions. And so I was, depending on who you talk to, a high performance guy in sales and marketing. But I also was really good at helping others perform because I like to transfer what I know. So the model is about acceptance first. Who are you? Which one is your gift? I am really good at loud and fast to the point of I annoy myself. It's such a natural thing to do. So when I see the seniors outside during the pandemic and the lockdown and they're lonely, I can go over and instantly, almost all of them, engage them and make them laugh and play the fool. And one of the 97-year-olds, because I'm respectful, but I say things like, excuse me, young lady, could you turn those eyes down? They get my attention every time. And she giggles and she said, Michael, I haven't had anybody flirt with me since I was 17.
Oh my God.
And so the model first is respect, respect, respect. Nobody's better than. But some of us are stuck because of intergenerational trauma, which parents have to understand that their child might be expressing something, and the experts have proven it changes our DNA, that was traumatized 2 generations ago. And we're just now discovering that. So why is this child this way? We don't act this way, and our parents, grandparents never acted this way. It might have nothing to do with you or your parents. It could be the great grandparents. And as we've learned this, we have to have models that respect the child for in the state they are. Give them credit for being good at one of those 4, even if it's the one that's the most annoying. I haven't worked with as many people that are stuck in quiet and slow, but quiet and slow sometimes is a state of, they've been traumatized. So they're frozen. They just want the world to quieten down and go away and leave me alone. So this pushing, go out and do, how about we give them some perspective and some skills before we push them to go out and do? I found Toastmasters, which is learning how to present to a group, terrifying. And people go, but you talk to people all the time. I said, that's casual. I'm in charge of the agenda. I'm good at free flow. If I, for argument's sake, went past Julia back in her university days, and Connie's hanging out with it, and you're all jibber jabbing, and we're all in university, so maybe we're single, maybe we're not. And I'm thinking, they're all interesting. I wonder if any of them would go out dancing. I was quite willing to come and play the fool respectfully and say, Julia, love the shoes. Connie, where did you get those glasses? Wow. And then say, okay, this one's in my psych class, this one's in the marketing class, and that one's in the communications class. Okay, which one's the most interesting? And of course, me being me, everybody's interesting. So maybe I should try to narrow this down to 1. Nope, so maybe I'll take all 3 to coffee one at a time and see if there's more interest past that. So that's what I'm good at, but it's also annoying that everybody's so darn interesting that when it came to dating back as a teenager, I'm not going to date anybody for a while because there's too many that I'm interested in, and treating them all like disposable doesn't work for me. So that's value coming.
Even until this moment, I learned so much personally. And the few keywords that I picked up is, number 1, be respectful. Number 2, no judgment. Pre-framing. Have fun, lots of fun. And do not assume.
And some of those things will confuse very wise people. So with my cancer issues, I got told I was having too much fun. Don't you know you've got cancer? It's in 4 locations and it's spread. So you should be making peace with your maker. And I said, I got a will made the day I got my diagnosis. I phoned 197 people back when long distance in the 80s that was a $400 plus phone bill the next month. I asked for love and respect and prayers, and send me a note once a month, please, about something positive in your life. So I was pre-framing going to the hospital. So send me a note about something positive in your life, something at work, something in your school, something in your neighborhood, something in your community, your job. I don't care. I don't need to know about you, good or bad, because I don't need personal. It's none of my business. What I called friends, acquaintances, people I hadn't talked to in 20 years. So Connie, imagine getting a Michael call. Connie, it's Michael Ballard. When we worked as students together at this department store, you always impressed me. We've stayed in touch a little bit, but life changes. You move to the other side of the country, so we don't go in for tea once a week. She was on the short list of, who should I date? She didn't like dancing though, so that was like, oh no, can't date somebody who doesn't like dancing. Gotta go dancing. Anyway, could you just send me a note, pretty please? Because here's what I'm going through. They responded en masse. I got 400 and some odd notes within 6 weeks. So pre-framing my situation gave me a sense of control that I might not control all the outcomes, but I was going to control my journey. So pre-framing for our kids, pre-framing for ourselves. When I was learning to ride from a tricycle to a bicycle, my dad pre-framed it. So son, he didn't know this was pre-framing, I don't believe. He'd never taken coaching courses. Son, you've learned how to ride a tricycle, that's steering. You've learned how to pedal for movement. Both those are the same with a bicycle. You've learned to stop. It's the old days, no grip bike, no braking. So you stop pedaling forwards and you pedal backwards and that stopped your bike. You've learned how to brake. Same on a bicycle. One more skill, balance. Now we lived on a rural road with big gravel. It was great for spring thaw that it didn't get muddy. You could walk on it, but it was an ankle biter sometimes, an ankle twister if you weren't careful. So on a bike with a kid with adequate balance, not great balance. So my dad took 2 full seasons to teach me. I even gave up for a few weeks and raced around after my friends with my legs. I was too mature for a tricycle and too uncoordinated for a bicycle. Anyways, so my dad pre-framed it that you've got the gift of steering, you're good at braking, and you're good at steering, braking, and pedaling. So now just take a deep breath, practicing calming skills. My dad's mother was phenomenal at these things. She used to have animals come to her and wildlife, birds. She was a female Dr. Doolittle. Anyways, and so that pre-framing, breaking down into what are the basic skills, being calm. I was slow, but I learned. The gravel was too big to put on training wheels. I'd have been, that would have been like on a horse bucking bronco. And so it worked. It really worked. So my driver's ed teacher. So how many rode a tricycle as a kid? How many rode a bicycle? Well, a car has some similarities. You have movement, forward, pedal. In a bike, you pedal. You steered. Well, this one's round, your bike head. So it's this way, not this way. But you've already done some of those things. So today we're staying in the parking lot for the first half of your lesson. So pre-framing is very powerful because it lowers our stress, increases our performance because, oh, I already know how to do this. And I already know how to do this. And I'm learning only one new one, but it's a big one. I still have scars on my left knee from my biking. Smart enough to know that I was going down, but not skilled enough to not go down. So I always fell on the left because I'm right-handed.
Michael, sorry.
No.
So because we have another few minutes left, would you like to elaborate about the ball on your?
Oh, yes.
And also your new platform that you're creating in the next 3-4
weeks.
Let me just add on to the question in a sense that we have so many questions to ask you, but time is running short. But the thing is, you mentioned that all of us have different states. And is it a daily kind of a check-in with ourselves according to these states that we are? And you also mentioned that some of us might be have certain skills and gifts in certain areas, like you might be skilled in fast and slow and so on. I mean, fast and quiet or something like that. And how do people find out?
Ask somebody you trust.
So it's always like being mirrored back what we are.
So yes, I mean, you can ask yourself, but you only have your own frame of reference.
Yep.
So I had a client who was $1.1 million in responsibilities for me when I was in sales at one point, and he was smart, but somebody later said, well, you scared him. I said, why would I scare him? He's really smart. He's highly accomplished. Yes, but all his staff like you and only about half his staff like him. And they're always saying, well, Michael said we should do, and he felt his control of them slipping away. I said, well, I'm not trying to be in control. He said, yeah, that's what really bothers them. You're just respectful and they follow your direction, not his. And he's answering to the board and the owner. And you're making more money in the stores than him, and he's in charge, and you're just the sales consultant. And so I tried to never judge him, but a couple of times he was so foul-mouthed that, remember, I visualize what I want to do to some people that are nasty. Don't wish to act it out. I don't even visualize acting it out. I just think, boy, if they did that to me again, how dare they touch? Well, the man that touched me inappropriately found out that, yes, I will strike back if you. But with him, I actually stood up and made fists because he said such vulgar things about my spouse. He was trying to control me. At the same time, I'm imagining throwing him out a window. It's like, Michael, be calm. Michael, that won't end well for anybody. Michael, be calm. I'm not going to act on it. I'm just allowed to react to it in my brain, but control my brain and what comes out of my mouth and respond respectfully and professionally, because I'd like to keep my professional job and I don't really wish to do any harm to somebody who's obviously in pain. He years later went bankrupt. You can only be that toxic to people because you haven't resolved your own issues, and it comes back. And that's the sad part. If we don't resolve our own issues, it comes back to bite us. We inflict on others along the way, and then it bites us. And he went bankrupt, and that cost him and his wife significant money, because his work ethic, oh my gosh, we'd all like a worker of his work ethic. It's like at the top of the charts. And he's smart. We'd all like to have coworkers that smart, or bosses or owners. But his social engagement skills, his relationship skills, he was in deep pain. And at the time, I just knew he reacted a lot, didn't respond well. And I didn't know any of this back then. My job was to sell appropriately, lower their inventory, increase their profits, lower their inventory more, increase their profits more, slow the staff turnover, reduce staff turnover, increase staff productivity. I loved it. But for some reason, my way scared his way, and doesn't make him a bad person, evil person. He was in pain, sharing his pain. So this model is, wherever you are, that's okay. But if you feel that you're stuck in slow and quiet, what would you like to do about it? Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. You're not defective. But did you ever have an incident that made quiet and slow the best response? I know with the motorcycle gang, I got real quiet and slow, because if I'd have acted out, boom, they could have broken me with one punch. So I got real quiet and slow. I used diversion. I said very few words. Okay. So this model is to get people to reflect on where they're at, be a tour guide into their own life. The course is getting parents and teachers and adults to help themselves, and seniors to help each other. But my favorite is the 4-year-old who went to great grandma and said, "Great grandma, are you having a day of too much loud and quiet on the inside?" Because it wasn't an age tremor, it was an anxiety tremor. And this 4-year-old, those little ones are really smart at picking up on what our states of being are, because they're not worried about, is the mortgage got to be paid? Does the car have a flat tire? Is my boss going to give me the raise I've already spent some of the money on new shoes? So it's not a cure for anything. It's to help you go forward safer, with more quietness and dignity when you need it and deserve it. I used to go to sales meetings where I had to share rooms, and they often said, "How do you fall asleep so fast?" I said, well, the smart aleck comment is, I'm too dumb to worry. The real comment is, I've done my best. My notes for tomorrow are ready to go. Nothing I can do overnight is going to change anything. I had a relative who I love deeply, long past, but they thought worrying made things better. Worrying justified how much they loved you. And I went, no, it's a waste of energy. So I have decided to be the calmest, best sleeper I am capable of. And 29 to 30 days a month, I'm good at it. And 1 or 2 nights a month, somebody said something to me about something, and it's like, I should have spoken up. I could have helped there. Or somebody said something, and geez, I should have spoken up. I could have made a big sale there. And I went and decided to just listen to get more information. But so anyways, to Connie, to go back to something, somebody asked, you said, how do people find you, or how do they hire you in that?
Yes.
Just look for Michael Ballard in Toronto, Canada, or Resiliency for Life and Michael. And typically they'll find me, and they can send me an email, or have a Facebook group, Resiliency for Life, they can join. No sales pressure there. I post on Equation that we published a book, and some people buy it and some people don't, and that's fine. Whether you do or you don't, no hard feelings. But that's where you can leave me a message. And because I love doing it.
Yeah, sounds great. Lots of things to think about as usual. Yeah.
And so I would like Connie, on your group, on your page, there's the link. And Julie, I think it's on your page. I will leave two PNG files, picture files, of the belly breathing skill and the square breathing skill. Because if you learn those two, they really help. And the one thing I know for sure is you can't learn just one version of a breathing skill. You have to learn multiple versions, because I've had somebody who said, well, belly breathing's everything for me. They had a major emergency in their family and their belly breathing skill failed them. They got migraines, they couldn't sleep. Belly breathing did nothing for them. So I highly recommend you become familiar with 7 of them and use 3 of them and rotate, because that way it's like gardening. If you only plant one type of tomato and there's a fungus come through one year, your garden's wiped out. But if you got 7 varieties of tomatoes, there's a good chance 2 or 3 of them are going to go to the fungus.
Sounds great.
So
Is there a method that you can close today's session with?
oh, sure, let's do square breathing. So I'm not going
Yeah, we did last week.
Did we do square breathing last week?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can't show it here, but one of my favorite skills is to lie on your bed. For those with full mobility, if you have blood pressure issues or you're in a chair in your bed, you can't do it. But alligator breathing is you lie on the ground and you try to elevate your feet so your body isn't flat, it's rounded. And your belly, you practice breathing in, belly pushes you off the ground, as long as you got a medium to strong diaphragm. And then you hold for 4 and you breathe out. And your belly should come up and in. So let's just do belly breathing, because alligator breathing, I can't move my camera in my limited space. So belly breathing, fingers on the navel, breathe in, hold for 4, and out for 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1, and then breathe in. And hold for 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1, and in. And we're good to go. For a lot of us, 2 cycles are all you need. So I will put those PDFs or PNG files, because that way, because I don't think we can attach PDF files to under one of the videos, but I'll put a couple of PNG files and go from there. But yes, thank you. It's an honor. Like I said before, Singapore to me was 10 to 20 years ahead of North America for mental health when I was there. So don't stop. I've made a few people angry about this. I talked about my daughter falling asleep and how if you're going to come in and shake a finger and say you've done something to my daughter, they accused me of doing something to my daughter. I think they were hinting they thought we medicated her. And I said, no, we helped her practice calm skills, because your model is reactionary. Why can't we teach kids and adults and youth everyday living mental health skills, or situational mental health skills, whatever you want to call it? Because life is full of situations, little ones, big ones.
Yeah,
absolutely. In grade 2, there was a gentleman, well, a young boy in grade 3, 1 year ahead of me. And only years later did I find out that he lived in a home with a lot of pain and suffering. One of his relatives had moved in, and the mother was being a full-time caregiver as well as a full-time job. No wonder he was angry. He had no parent time. One was dying over 20 years, and one was run ragged. Well, in grade 3, he was one angry kid. He was picking on my friends. So guess what? I went toe-to-toe with him. My nose still doesn't breathe well, but he stopped picking on my friends, and I became the object of his hatred. But he was in grade 2, I was in grade 3. We didn't know any better. So with hindsight, that I have known about these skills and we'd have had a friendship instead, because he died in his 50s because he was acting out of anger all the time. Crashed his car so hard in a bridge once, he moved the bridge in a small 2-country road. If he was a radio station, his tagline would have been all angry all the time. It's so sad. But nobody did anything wrong, just we didn't know any better. Now we know better. So it's time to move it forward and get it out there. Thank you.
I have already pre-framed that you are coming back with us really soon.
Well, with your permission, I could come back.
Yeah.
We could talk about the conference that Julia's a piece of. That would be important. And then if you want, I could actually put up the PDF and give you a shorter version of the actual course, which I'd be honored to do. Because
let's look at when your platform is created. like
Thank you.
a few weeks from now.
I'd be honored.
Well, since Michael mentioned it, and I know it's really late now, but tomorrow others can hear it, that Michael has so kindly agreed to come on to this Green and Healthy Festival Holistic Wellness Symposium to be one of the keynoters there, to be one of
Wow.
the speakers there. And it's going to take place on the 24th and 25th of July. It's held by Kampong Senang Charity Foundation. And this is a foundation that actually helps cancer patients, people with chronic illnesses and all that through education, through change of lifestyle and mind-body approach. So this holistic wellness symposium is something that happens every year, and there are speakers like from all domains, people who talk about sustainability, there are people who talk about health and how to eat so that you can have a totally balanced system and so on. And there are valuable speakers like yourself that teaches life skills that will bring about tremendous health all around for people.
Well, it's a very valuable conference. I looked at who the attendees have been and who the other presenters are, and I went, I'll have to wear a tie. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining in, and thanks for today. Learned so much.
My honor. My honor. Thank you.
Got
to help the kids and each other.
And so before we end this session, I would like to thank Brenda Paul and Evelyn who joined us today. So yeah, I look forward to your session again with us a few weeks from now.
Thank you.
And thank you for everybody who is viewing, because sometimes you do not know who are viewing this session. And before we know it, we have like hundreds of people viewing this video. So I would like to say thank you to anyone who is watching us today. Thank you and good night. Bye. Love you.
Good night.
Best sleep, you two.